Brang, brang, brang.
Hill Kings Podcast.
Bark!
Bark. Honk.
What's up, bitch?
We're honk. We're back.
We're
here.
honk. We're here.
We're
We're
here.
honk.
We're back.
We're here. We're honk. And I'm honked over.
He's honked over from building a deck.
Honked over from drinking beers.
Adult sodas.
But update from
Nephews.
last week, the deck is complete.
The deck's done.
I have a blister on my hand.
Mm-hmm.
A
bruised sternum and a bruised ego.
Bruised soul.
Uh,
But the deck is done.
mm-hmm. The deck is done.
And we're here. We're
back.
recording.
Hello.
How's it going? How are you?
Man. I'm good. Not too bad. It's a Sunday early afternoon. We got a lot accomplished this morning, so
list everything in order that you got accomplished.
Let's see. We did go to the
quickly,
grocery
faster,
store.
faster than that.
Baby on a walk.
Baby on a walk.
Store.
Okay, grocery store. Got it. More. Fast. Faster.
Lunch,
what else? Ate lunch. What'd you have? What'd you have?
Bed sheets,
In detail.
did
Great detail. What'd you
laundry,
have?
A buffalo chicken wrap.
Buffalo chicken wrap.
And now we're here.
You love to hear it.
Yeah, it was a productive morning.
I've been less productive today. It's my wife's birthday.
Oh.
Shout out to
Edmond, Oklahoma's own Marette.
That's it, Marette. Yeah, it's her birthday.
Actually, I believe she's really from Branson, Missouri. That's correct, right?
Yes, I will.
In Branson, Missouri.
I'll put up the photo of her in Branson, Missouri here, just to embarrass her a little bit.
That's where she's from. That's her cultural.
You're from Edmond. She's from Branson.
Yes.
And I'm from the greatest, whitest north.
Mm.
Why are we here today, Chris?
Dude, we're here to talk about season 2, episode 9, The Company Man of King of the Hill.
Do you want to say it?
Yeah, we can. We'll, I mean, listeners, followers, watchers, if you've watched this one, we're not sure how you feel about this one. Brad and I talked about it a bit up front. This one's it's going to be in the mid category.
It's a stinker.
There was a lot of interesting stuff going on here for me. I had a fun time writing my notes and watching this episode.
As a salesman?
Overall, yes, as a seller of man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. This one aired on December 7th of 1997. So we're actually about to round the corner into their Christmas episodes.
It's Christmas time in the city.
Yeah.
Silver bells, hear them squeal.
Yes.
Soon it will be Christmas.
Oh, hell yeah.
Day.
The famous squealing silver bells of
squealing yells. We're going to talk about this mid-ass episode, but before we do that, I would like to share with you what was going on in the world on a little segment that we like to call
This Week in Arlen.
I've got a new theme for this week in Arlene. As you mentioned, this episode,
how you feel about it in the comments, folks.
They love it.
They're typing right now.
They all love it. Oh my God, I see the comments coming in. Wow, that person loves it. Shit.
So fun.
Thanks, guys. That's really nice. Wow. You mentioned this episode aired December 7th, 1997. We're going to take a look at what was going on in the world at that time. Starting off with the TV guide. What stands out to you? I see the Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book, yeah. Pinky and the Brain is on down at the WB. Definitely
Oh, we'll
standing
talk
out.
about it. We'll
We'll
talk
talk
about
about
Pinky
it.
and the
We'll
Brain.
talk about it. All-Star TV bloopers. I mean, that sounds great.
That's always good to see.
That could be anything. Bloopers is a grab bag. In
Looks
terms
like
of the
we've
All-Star,
got
yeah.
a Christmas special of the X-Files,
Ooh,
which is I'm intrigued
wow.
by that. I keep
Yeah, that's
meaning to
trippy.
start watching the X-Files. I've like never really watched
I,
it,
I was never an X-Files guy either, honestly.
but I feel like I would like it, you
Yeah,
know?
it seems like I don't know. Listeners, tell us how you feel about the X-Files, but
Yeah.
I enjoy Bones, so I feel like I would like the X-Files if
Yeah,
that
you
makes
do.
sense. I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I don't know. It seems fun. That's probably
Chris
not true. They're probably
enjoys
not alike at
Bones.
all. Hell
Chris
yeah.
enjoys Bones, guys.
Bones and X-Files probably not alike at all, but
Yeah, I don't think they are.
The Jungle Book is on ABC. That's fun.
Yeah, and then also CBS Sunday movie, A Thousand Men and a Baby.
I was just about to talk about that. I'm so confused about 1,000 Men and a Baby.
I'm looking it up as we squeak.
Oh boy.
Okay. It's got um fucking what's his face from Breaking Bad in it. The older dude. I'm blanking on his name.
Oh
Jonathan
man.
Banks is his name.
Ah. What's the premise of 1,000 Men and a Baby other than that
Uh,
there's a
the
thousand men?
morale on board a U.S. aircraft character carrier at
Oh,
the end of
character.
the Korean War is
Oh.
boosted by the arrival of a mixed-race baby rescued from a Korean orphanage. The child's
Oh.
welfare soon becomes the concern of the entire crew, as well as the ship's doctor, whose stoical reaction to his wife's recent stillbirth is modified by his charge. Based on a true story. It's got a
Interesting.
3.9 out of 10 from Film Affinity and a 6.6 on IMDb. So it doesn't seem
Interesting.
it's also got the grandma from Everybody Loves Raymond in it.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
It
Seems kind
sounds
of seems kind of bad.
it sounds like definitely a movie they were making in 1997.
Yeah,
Um,
mixed raced baby.
shout out to Korean War veterans like my grandpa.
Yeah, super
You
just
guys,
war that definitely needed to happen and
yeah,
should have happened.
you guys may or may not have heard me talk about him in season 1, episode 8, The Shins of the Father.
You mean that episode that we never released?
If
The
you
lost
have
episode?
the lost episode, if you're listening to this and wondering what happened to season 1, episode 8, we revealed my grandfather's war crimes, and
That's why we could it
that's
wasn't
why
Fergie's fault at
definitely
all.
definitely not because we went to war with Fergie.
That we went to the Korean War with Fergie.
Moving on, moving on.
Moving on.
Simpsons
Pinky and
check,
the
baby.
Brain.
Oh
Well, we're
no, we're
gonna
going
talk
to
about
Pinky and the
Pinky and the
Brain
Brain
first.
first. It was a Christmas special of Pinky and the
Yeah.
Brain. Do you remember watching this?
I think so, yeah. This definitely
So it
looks
was
familiar.
basically they deceive Santa into giving like hypnotic devices to everyone for Christmas so
Oh,
that they can
hell
take
yeah.
over the world.
That's a great plan.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I remember I had it on VHS. This is a photo here of the VHS.
Yes, nice.
So, might see if I can
Is it
track this down.
is it like a full hour long Christmas special?
I believe it was a half hour,
Oh,
John.
okay.
Yeah, looking
Wow.
at the TV guide, it was a half hour. Kind of
Interesting.
late for Pinky and the Brain to be on, hey?
Uh,
7:30 p.m.
yeah, maybe. That'd be the
Was
last
it
thing you
like an
saw.
adult-ish show?
Kinda, sorta,
I mean,
not
I definitely
entirely.
was watching it when I was like
I mean,
6.
not in the way that like Ren and Stimpy was.
Yeah. Speaking of Ren and Stimpy,
Yeah, speaking of Ren and Stimpy,
we've got a little Ren and Stimpy action in this episode.
little crossover.
We'll talk about it. Moving on
Mm.
here, though, non-mid Simpsons episode. I wouldn't call it good, but it was an okay one. This one is notable because it is the final episode featuring Lionel Hutz, who was voiced by Phil Hartman. This was the last episode that came out before
Okay.
Phil Hartman's tragic passing, which
Ah,
really, like, it was a minor character. Like Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure
I'm
were
not
like the
super
two.
familiar with their crew.
Oh my God. They're like two classic Simpsons characters, just like recurring characters. Lionel Hutz is like a skeezy lawyer guy who just like is really bad at his job. And
Uh-huh.
Troy McClure was like a TV personality. He's the guy who's like, you may remember me from such films as.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great recurring character. Phil Hartman's a legend. This was the last episode
Certainly,
featuring him.
I'm aware of Phil Hartman. I
Yeah.
wasn't at just the back end of the Simpsons crew.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
less knowledgeable there.
Yeah, definitely felt the lack of his presence moving forward in The Simpsons from this episode. But this one is about Marge becoming a real estate agent.
I feel like I've seen maybe this shot or before, or like knew that she had a real
Yeah,
estate
Red
career.
Blazer Realty.
Mm-hmm.
It's only in this one episode.
Does she just like keep getting jerked around by her like employer? Is it
I
like end up not
don't
being a good gig or
really
something like that?
remember. It ends with
Okay.
her no longer being a real estate agent. I know that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'll
Okay.
probably go and rewatch it.
But it's non-mid according to you.
Yeah, I remember enjoying this episode. I'll circle back on that. Moving on, though, Little Boy makes a big hit.
Oh wow.
Aaron Carter's first album came out this week.
Wow.
I remember we had this CD.
Bro. Oh, man, the late 90s and boy bands and manufactured pop,
Yeah.
man.
Basically the whole premise of him being famous was just that his brother was in the
I was gonna
Backstreet
say
Boys.
I was gonna say that's his link, right?
Yeah. And he was
Wow.
10 years old when this came out.
Whoa.
And I believe it was the first time since Michael Jackson that a child that young like charted on the Billboard
Uh-huh.
charts.
Interesting. Now that's an impressive stat if you're Aaron
Thank
Carter,
you. Thank
honestly.
you. Thank you.
That's an impressive
Thank you.
stat.
I am impressive. Thanks.
Yes.
Moving on,
uh
Black Sabbath played their first shows since 1978. They got back together.
Hell yeah. What an interesting eclipse of music. You've got 10-year-olds charting, and then you've got
Yeah.
Metallica, Black Sabbath,
Black
excuse me.
Sabbath was so pissed that a 10-year-old was taking up all of the conversation musically that they
uh
were like, let's get back
get
on the
back in this
horse.
shit.
Exactly. uh Never been a huge Black Sabbath guy, but cool that they got back together. I
Yeah.
thought for the longest time that Ozzy Osbourne was dead. He's alive still.
He's alive, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's still kicking. Good for him.
Yeah.
This shit was the number one song in the
Oh
UK.
man.
Teletubbies. I didn't know this song, but are you familiar with?
I'm sure if you play the song, it will
Yeah, I'll play a
a
snippet.
circuit will fire in my brain.
Here we go.
I mean, I obviously I
Not
obviously I
so
remember
much
the
of a song,
Teletubbies.
hey?
It
That
sounds
was the number one song in the UK.
wow.
Just
The
taking over the airwaves, I guess.
the English have such refined palates.
They sure do. Uh, Amistad was the
Ooh,
only movie that came out this week, and it was at the
really?
bottom of the box office.
Wow.
Starship Troopers was still up there. Flubber was still number one, I believe,
Hmm.
third week going. This movie is about a revolt on a Spanish-owned ship
Yes.
off the coast of Long Island, and it's basically
It's an
about
actual
like,
historical event. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a
Hmm.
slave ship thing, I think.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman, Matthew
Morgan
McConaughey,
Freeman, Anthony Hopkins.
Tony Hopkins was. Is
Yes.
he? He's not in blackface here, is he?
No.
Okay,
What?
good. It kind of looks like Anthony
No,
Hopkins is.
he looks like a merchant boss guy. He looks
Okay,
like the
yeah.
asshole. I bet you McConaughey plays
Some sort of lawyer.
he plays the white savior lawyer here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Morgan Freeman is
Look at young Matty McCons though with the
a little
chops,
guy.
honestly.
Yeah,
He looks
wow.
good as a character actor. He should play more shit like that more often.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead he's like selling courses now for
Oh
like how
yeah.
to live life.
I could have sworn that he was coaching for fucking UT, man. I thought he
No,
was
he's just
a
kind of always at
Longhorn.
their games.
Hmm.
Moving on. Quake 2 came out. You ever play
Quake
Quake
2
2?
after the Quake. No, dude, I was never a Quake guy.
Post
I've
Quake.
heard of it.
I
I don't
remember
know
I
about it.
got in trouble in middle school because whenever we had like computer class in the
Uh-huh.
computer lab, like a bunch of us would just not do our assignments and play
Classic.
Quake 2.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
then we got caught, obviously, playing
And then we
video
get our
games in class.
computer lab privileges taken away.
Yep. Yep.
All
Yep.
because Brad had to play Quake 2, the Aftershock.
Yep, I was really bad at it, but it was
Mm,
fun. Aftershock is also, that's funny.
yeah.
Kudos to you for that joke.
Thank you. Quake
Moving
2,
onward,
After
it
the
was
Shock.
also Aaron Carter's 10th birthday on this
Whoa.
day. So the album
Did he?
came out actually a couple days prior, and then he
Okay.
celebrated his B-day with the album release.
I was about to jump your ass for having two Aaron Carter slides in here,
Nah, baby.
but it's two different Aaron Carter events this week. Damn,
Yep.
this was a big
This
week for
was an
AC.
Aaron Carter heavy week. Rest in peace
Big week in Aaron's house.
to a king. This was probably a big part of the reason that his life got so fucked up.
Yes.
It was fun while it lasted, right? It was also another legend's birthday.
Hell yeah, dude.
It was Larry Bird's
Look at
41st.
look at Lawrence Birdman.
Wow, just a puffy milk drinking man.
Hell yeah, dude. That's how you get rings, though. That's how you get rings, man.
You drink your milk, yeah. Never broke a
Kids,
bone in his entire career.
nephews, drink your milk. Get those
Yeah,
rings.
don't know. Uh, it was also the 27th anniversary of Rube Goldberg's death.
Whoa. How did he how did
It's a,
he
it's a deep cut for you.
how did he die?
Uh, I don't know, but I think it would be really funny if like the way that
If it
they
was like
lowered him
complicated.
into the ground was like a like a whole series of
Rube Goldberg.
Rube Goldberg,
Yeah.
and then it ends with his coffin just getting dropped into the ground.
Yeah. What
Uh,
if yeah, exactly. What if he designed that in his and like that was part of his will? It was like you have to bury me this way.
honestly, I would love that if I
Yeah.
was a family member of his,
hmm
and I might do this myself.
Yeah. And then it's crazy that his like great granddaughter is like such a well known actress. Whoopi.
Also, how is his name Rube? Is that short for
Could
something?
could be
Ruben
Ruben.
Ruben Goldberg?
It could just mean he was a Mark and he was a
He's
Rube
just a
all his
dumbass.
life. Yeah, dude.
His name was actually Gerald.
Rubing on.
Rubing on. It was the 56th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
A day which will live in infamy.
Yeah. Ben Affleck, Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, dude.
Remember that movie?
Yes, dude. Shout out to the USS Oklahoma. It's in the water.
Oh, is that the one that got hit?
It's one of the ones that went down. I don't think it's that one in the photo you've got there. That
Mm,
might be the Arizona. We saw this image so much in history books as kids.
yeah.
I don't know
Not
if that
me,
was
because my country had already joined the war. We were kind of
uh
already helping, and this is what
yeah.
it took for your lazy ass country to get into World War II.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
I recently been watching a little World War II stuff on Netflix again. I loved like History Channel as a kid,
Oh
so
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
been fun to get back into it.
Oh yeah. Rounding it out here though, one of
Mm.
my favorite albums of all time came out on this day 24 years prior. So it's almost the 25th anniversary of Band on the Run
Wow.
by Paul McCartney and Wings. You know
Band
this album?
Run. What are some of the hits off of it?
Well, Band on the Run,
Well, sure, of
obviously.
course, the title,
You've got Bluebird. I'm
Bluebird.
a
Okay.
bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird. I believe Helen Wheels is on
Mm.
this. I think Live and Let Die or Let Me
Oh,
Roll
okay.
It. Let Me Roll It is on this album. Jet, which is a huge Paul McCartney song.
hmm
You know that one, Mrs. Vanderbilt. That's kind of a deeper cut, but a really good one.
Yep.
The big three were Band on the Run,
Yeah.
Let Me Roll It, and Jet.
Do you want to tell your crying in front of Paul McCartney story here, or no? You save that for the Patreon.
Well, I feel like I kind of have to
No,
now.
you don't have to. You don't have. We can leave it at that. We can leave it mysterious.
Oh yeah.
It's a good story. It's a
It
great
is a
story.
good story. If you guys want to hear it, I guess ask for it. I have
Maybe
a
the
really
next
good Paul McCartney story that
maybe
makes most people tear up when I tell it.
the next time Paul McCartney enters This Week in Arlen, maybe.
It'll come up again, but
Ooh.
that will do it for this week in Arlen. Should we just get into this fucking episode, brother?
We should definitely get into season
All
2,
right,
episode
timer's
9.
going.
Oh God, the company man. I got to start my
35 minutes.
engines. Okay, that's generous. Yeah, so this is the company man. It aired on like we said, December 7th of 1997. Your
Mm-hmm.
blurb is
Mm-hmm.
Hank struggles to portray himself and his life as that of the stereotypical Texan cowboy for a Hollywood cowboy movie in order to secure business deal for Strickland Propane. I read that terribly, and I don't know if it was
No,
written terribly,
you're doing
but that's
great,
your
bud.
blurb.
Uh,
Um,
First standout in this
mhm.
episode, even before anyone spoke. What's
Yes.
going? We took like a step back animation wise.
Yeah, I had that noted down as well. It looks like there's some older animation stuff here. It maybe
Well,
looks like there's some recycled stuff.
Hank's eyes are smaller.
Hmm.
Like in the first episode, Hank's character model looks very different. And then in this
Hmm.
episode, it seems like it had switched. Even like the episode that we watched last week,
Yeah.
I like
I
put them up side by side on my computer. He looks different.
I bet you we're looking at some recycled bits here and some fresh animation scenes and that type of thing. I bet we're looking at maybe some cutting room floor stuff spliced back together,
Well, I feel like this
potentially.
episode probably was written and animated earlier and they
First,
just put it later. I feel like they
hmm.
maybe changed animation studios.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah,
interesting to learn a little more about that.
yeah. I think that the King of the Hills production timeline is actually pretty well documented and stuff on YouTube. And there's a bunch of stuff I probably should watch about a lot of that back end stuff. But I did notice that it seems out of
It's
place with
not
its
our job
animation
to know
style.
stuff about King of the Hill.
Oh, it's not. This one, it's not our job, it's our hobby.
It's our
So
jobby.
this one is directed, written by Judge Daniels Dotrieve, and then credited Hardwick as well.
Legend.
Directed by Wesley Archer, of course. But we also have Clay Hall directing on this as well.
Mm,
I think he's been on some King of the Hill stuff before. He was one of his most recent things. What is it? He was the director of the Planes movie, Pixar Planes, if you recall that. Lovely.
Planes?
Yeah.
No,
You
that's not Pixar. That was Disney Animation
oh, was
Studios
it?
just
Oh,
taking
damn.
the IP of Cars, which is the worst Pixar franchise.
Mm. Okay. Well, my bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
not
Clay Hall's
Pixar.
involved here.
So,
My bad. My bad.
Psych!
Um, we no cold open. It's a hot open. We're
hot.
gonna hot open. We're opening in Strickland Propane. And we've been inside Strickland a couple times before, but this is going to be one of the first scenes where we get a full
Uh,
introduction to Buck Strickland. But
Buck alert.
so Bobby is working on a report for his Sunday school on his hero Hank, and so he's kind of reading off the first lines of this report
A
to
question
Hank.
about this. Is that a thing that Sunday schools do? They assign you a a, a writing project to write about your
Maybe
hero?
maybe it definitely sounds like something that would be a school assignment more than a
Yeah.
Sunday school assignment, which maybe leads to our theory of some recycled clippagery here. Like maybe they had
Mm,
some imagery already in the church pews to use and get back to, but it definitely sounds more like a school assignment than a Sunday school assignment.
yeah.
But whatever. Bobby's doing a report on his hero, which is Hank. Very cute. Buck Strickland, Mr. Strickland, Hank's boss, is gonna walk in. He's gonna tell Bobby that oh, your dad's your hero. He's, so great. Buck's really talking him up, says he promoted him 15 times in 15 years, and now he's assistant manager.
That's like a promotion a year.
That's a promotion a year, but also how many positions are there below assistant
Yeah.
manager at a propane? Anyways, um,
Grease
uh,
grease monkey. Uh
Buck,
what else? What else does Cotton call him?
yeah. Um,
Gas
you're
station
here.
attendant.
Yeah, you're here to read a meter. That's your job, right?
Yeah.
Buck is going to tell Bobby that you're your daddy's seed, and Bobby writes down. Bobby's taking notes all this
Yeah.
episode, but Bobby writes down, "I'm my daddy's
I
seed,"
did
which I
enjoy
thought was
the
funny.
recurring bit of Bobby just writing everything years down.
It's gonna pay off in the end. Bobby's almost our little B storyline here, but Mr. Strickland tells Hank, "Hank, I got a grunt. Let's take this meeting in the back." And then we immediately cut to Mr. Strickland is having a business prospect meeting with Hank in the bathroom while Strickland is shitting with the door open.
Yep. And Hank is
That's
just kind of standing there with his back turned.
very, very funny
Yeah.
to me, Mr. Strickland making Hank take a meeting while he's shitting in the bathroom. It's so funny.
And we learn that that's not the first time.
This is not the first time. Yeah, so we get a flashback here, and this is where we're going to meet our first guest star of the evening. Or actually, before we get the first guest star, Buck tells Hank about who this business prospect is. Mr. Strickland tells Hank about Holloway Hollows, which is a housing project being built. Mr. Holloway is coming in from Boston. It's big business. Mr. Strickland hands Hank a folder with a pretty hefty dinner budget and some rental car keys.
A counterfeit proof $100 bill. Was that just a fake $100 bill? Like, what
Maybe.
was that?
That could have been whenever paper money changed, like the hundos now. I don't know if you ever get your hands on those.
Because I'm poor or what?
No, because you're Canadian, dude. You have to use.
Oh yeah.
You got to
Oh
use
yeah.
the
All of
toonies
our
and loonies,
money's
yeah.
coins. Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever get your hands on those, you poor bitch.
Yeah, but Hank is like Mr. Strickland. I don't need a fancy car or a big dinner
He
budget
says
to
all
close
this
a sale.
James Bond
This
shit.
James Bond stuff. I don't need it. But Mr. Strickland says we've got competition, and it's Thatherton.
Yeah, and conveniently, Thatherton, his like propane shop is right out the bathroom window. You can just see it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Thatherton is the competition, and that's where we go into our flashback. So, MF Thatherton, we is going to be played by Burt Reynolds in this
No
episode.
way.
That's Burt Reynolds. You
That's
didn't look at
Burt
this?
Reynolds? No,
It's
I
Burt
never do.
Reynolds. Yes,
That's
it's Burt
awesome.
Reynolds. There's two other guest stars in this episode, which is why I had fun writing this one because there's a lot of little tie-ins. But yeah, it's so Burt Reynolds is going to play Thatherton. For our Gen Z listeners, ask your grandma who Burt Reynolds is.
Your grandma probably
Burt,
fucking wanted to Burt his Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds had a mustache, and it made the ladies wiggle.
And a hairy old chest.
Yes, Burt Reynolds, R.I.P. He did pass away in 2018.
He's dead?
He is, yes.
Huh.
His notable big titles, of course, you know him from Boogie Nights. You know him from Smokey and the Bandit, where he co-starred across from Sally Fields, who he had a on-again, off-again romantic fling with. Called her the love of his life.
You know a lot about Burt Reynolds, hey?
Yeah, dude, I wrote it down. He's in the Cannonball Run. He's in Striptease.
Smokey and the Bandit 2. Oh, Striptease was, oh man.
Deliverance. He's in Deliverance. Burt Reynolds is in a lot of shit.
He's in the 2005 Dukes of Hazzard movie that we talked about last week with Jessica Simpson in it.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds.
All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Fantastic movie. He's in Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Dolly Parton. But yeah, he's Burt Reynolds.
You want to just talk about Burt Reynolds for the rest of the episode?
Dude, I could do another couple of blurbs about Burt Reynolds. I read about his career. He got his start kind of in westerns in like the late 60s and 70s, playing westerns and shit. And then his career kind of like calmed down, and he didn't like get a ton of action. And then I can't remember which exact movie it was that kind of brought him back, but he had essentially a second career where a lot of those movies that we just talked about came out in. And then he had this third phase of his career where he's kind of in his more gentleman actor phase, and that's where you see him, in your Dukes of Hazzards and taking lots of guest roles. So Burt Reynolds had a lifelong career. He's very well awarded, very well known, kind of a Hollywood hunk type of guy. He's a legend.
Looking at his IMDb, he is in a lot of shit.
He is an absolute legend of Hollywood. And yeah, like I said, if you're Gen Z, your grandma knows him. If you're a millennial, your mom knows him. So, anyways, Burt Reynolds is going to play Fatherton here, but we get a flashback into the same bathroom. So, Strickland and a young Hank and a young Fatherton are having a business meeting in the, as Mr. Strickland calls it, the Skunk Works.
Yeah, and you can tell that it is a flashback because Hank is wearing a different colored shirt.
Hank is wearing a brown shirt. So yeah, they're having a meeting in the Skunk Works, and Strickland walks out, and Hank is like, "Gee, Thatherton, those sales quotas sure are tough, huh?" And Thatherton's the villain, and he's like, "I'm cutting out. I'm going on my own. I'm starting Thatherton Fuels."
Well, he
Uh,
also says if you're worried about it, like go to an old folks home and tell them that it's oxygen.
yes, yeah. He says, "Yeah, take your propane to retirement homes and tell them it's oxygen." And Hank's like, "You can't do that." And yeah, Thatherton kind of insults him and says, like, "You're just a worker bee. I'm a queen," which
Hank's like, what?
I thought was very fun.
That was really good.
Um, thought that was very fun. But yeah, Thatherton says he's already signed Strickland's top 3 accounts and he's cutting out on his own. Um, so yeah, we get this flashback that this Thatherton is not a straight shooter, not an honest businessman.
He's the villain.
Yeah, and he's gonna say to Hank, "Well, aren't you the company man?" Which is where the title of our episode is kind of coming from here. Thatherton's meeting this company man as an insult of someone who,
A little
follow
bitch.
follows the rules, stays in the box, plays fair. Yeah, he's the company man. He's not gonna, do anything to strike out on his own. So Thatherton kind of means it as an insult. Um, so yeah, we flash over to Hank driving a big old Cadillac with some horns up to the house. It's very fun.
Pimped out.
Everyone's um everyone's checking it out. The horn plays the Yellow Rose of Texas. Very flashy Texan style car. Han is gonna call it is gonna ask why Hank has a silly cow car, which I thought was very funny. Um, Dale is going to explain to Khan that Hank's got a business prospect coming in from the east, um, and Khan is like, "Oh, I get it. Hank Hill's sucking up to make a sale," and Hank is like, "No, no, no, I don't need this." Like it's insulting to Hank to like need flashiness to sell.
Yeah.
Um,
It's all
and
about the
so
propane.
yeah, taste the meat, not the heat. This whole episode is going to kind of be Hank trying to sell and his counterpart for the episode just not going along with it. We'll
Yeah.
meet Holloway here in just a little bit, but oh no, that's basically the next scene is the airport.
Yep. They go pick him up. Plastic sign with his name on it. They're like wondering what he's gonna look like,
Yeah, and they
assuming
say
that he's gonna be very like East Coast city boy.
mhm. He says like he's from Boston, so he's probably like short, pale, and wearing penny loafers or
Yep.
something like that. Just
Uh, and then the fucker comes out in like a
yeah,
10-gallon hat.
yep. 10-gallon hat. He's got his boots on. He's got his fringe jacket. I think he says howdy to Hank right as he walks up here. But this is our second guest star for the episode. Mr. Holloway is played by Billy West, which
Legend.
we've talked about him a bit before. He was on season 1, episode 10, Keeping Up with Our Joneses.
Hmm.
He's in 2 eps this season. He's on this episode 9, and he'll be on episode 17. And
Different
then
character.
different character, yes, and different
Cool.
characters each time. He's Billy West is also going to be in season 3. He's on episode 16 and 20. So we'll
And
see
that's
him
pretty much
again.
all he's done.
Yeah, that's it. Just a couple
Yeah.
episodes of King of the Hill. So Billy West here is where our Ren and Stimpy and some of our Pinky and the Brain
Yep.
uh, comes across here.
Futurama.
Mm-hmm.
He was Philip J. Fry in Futurama.
And
He
Dr.
was
Zoidberg,
he
a
was
bunch of other
Doug
people. Mm-hmm. He's
in
Doug
the
Funny and
animated
Doug.
series Doug.
Mm-hmm.
He
Uh,
is in Space Jam, the original Space Jam,
as Bugs Bunny. He voices Bugs in some projects here and there and has
but
before.
mostly Space Jam. He's a
Yeah,
legend.
he's the legend. He's in every cartoon that you know from your childhood. He's probably uh guested in it or been a big portion of it all over the
Or
Looney
or did the
Tunes.
main character's voice.
Yeah, yeah. hmm so it's cool that he's here in this episode and that he's going to be in a couple episodes. So he's playing Mr. Holloway, but yeah, Mr. Holloway, this guy from Boston, shows up on the scene and he is decked out. He's cowboyed out at the airport, which was I just thought so funny. So they go about their sale, and Holloway's not really interested in hearing anything that Hank has to say. He's just like playing with the light switch at the diner. They Bobby and Hank go to a diner with Holloway.
They got to get some pie.
They got to get some pie because that's how
That's
Hank
Hank's
closes
sales
sales.
tactic,
Coffee
is
and
getting
pie,
people pie.
and if he needs to, pie a la mode.
Yeah, only in rare circumstances.
Yeah, only in a pinch. And
And the
Peggy.
pie at this place is made with Strickland propane.
Uh, Holloway's just not listening though, not paying attention.
Yeah,
Not
this dude
really
seems kind of
impressed.
simple.
Yes. He does seem he's very annoying. He's a very
Yeah,
annoying character.
yeah.
He's just like kind of obnoxious and loud, and he's like asking for stuff all of the time, and he's never happy. He's a bad client.
Typical Boston person, you
Ooh,
know?
wow. Um,
Yeah, I said it.
I don't know if you've ever interacted with anyone like this in the business world, Brad.
Yeah, and they're all from Boston.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I definitely have.
yeah. So this guy's just like not interested in what Hank has to say at all.
He wants to be wooed. He
Yeah.
wants like
He
the
wants the
Texas
Texas treatment.
experience.
Yeah, he wants the sizzle. So he says like, "Oh, check it out, a real old Texas jukebox," and he's got this fucking a real Texas jukebox.
And it doesn't even have the theme from Dallas on it.
It doesn't have the theme from Dallas on it, which is what he is expecting. And it seems that Mr. Holloway's entire interpretation of Texas is kind of what he's basing off of the TV show Dallas. Are you familiar with the TV show Dallas, Brad, at all?
I know of it. I don't think I've
Okay.
ever seen an episode of it.
So this would have been a cultural reference that was ripe at the time, but now it's probably a little bit lost. For those of you that don't know the show Dallas, if you're an office head, you might recognize Dallas from the board game
Yeah.
that Jim, Dwight, and Kevin play in the garage sale episode of The Office. "Quote unquote," that's Dallas. But the show Dallas is it's kind of a proto Succession. You know how everyone's like, "Oh, Succession, so great." Dallas was kind of that family enterprise drama of its time, but it took place in Dallas in the oil industry.
Yeah.
And it's, kind of one of those cutthroaty type of businessy type of shows. But
A lot of people
Atherton,
wearing cowboy hats from what I'm
yes,
seeing.
Atherton is going to start calling Hank JR here. And
Is that a
JR
character from Dallas?
that is a character from Dallas. So
Okay. I
that's
was gonna ask about that.
that's like apparently the oldest son of the show.
Got it.
So
And
yeah,
he was kind of a dumbass, it seems.
he seems he was like a real ruthless kind of like business guy, but Atherton or Holloway latches on to calling him JR. He's like, "I'm gonna call you JR from now on." But yeah, that's how it starts. Is it does the jukebox doesn't have the theme song to Dallas. JR is the character from Dallas, which was a sitcom popular
Got it.
at the time. Anyways, I don't know if it was a comedy. It might have been a drama. But,
No, I think it was definitely a drama.
Yeah, I think Burt Reynolds actually was on an episode of Dallas. I was doing a lot of IMBDing last night, but he might have even
Speaking
been
of
there.
Burt Reynolds, though, Atherton just happens to be
Yes.
at the pie shop.
Atherton actually just shows up out of nowhere. I don't know if you caught this in the animation. He's not at the counter for the first of their interaction, and then after Holloway is playing with the blinds, when we cut over and see them again, then Atherton is at the counter.
Love that.
So Atherton spins around while Hank is doing his 14-point sales presentation. Very riveting stuff. Yeah, Atherton spins around and wants to be introduced. Hank says this is the only man censured by the Texas Propane Association for lewdness and conduct unbefitting a propane salesman. So
And Hank's
Holloway,
about to call him a motherfucker, I think.
yes, yes, he is.
He's like, the MF stands for,
The MS stands for my friend.
yeah, he cuts him off and says, my friend.
Very funny. That was one of my favorite kind of tongue-in-cheek jokes of the episode. Is that obviously they can't say motherfucker on cable TV at that time, but they can say my friend. Yeah, I thought that was very funny. Holloway is kind of immediately charmed by Thatherton, who's he's got a belt buckle, he's got a
Got a
hat, he's got his
mustache.
boot bonds, he's got his mustache. Well, it's a Burt Reynolds character. You
Yep.
can't not give him a mustache.
Swagged out.
Holloway thinks that MF is a real Texan and tells Bobby that he can write down that he met a real Texan today.
Bobby writes it down.
Bobby writes it down. Just like Holloway's just like he's such a jerk. It's so funny. Uh, Such a jerk character. Is really great. But yeah.
It's the
Hank.
second time that Hank is getting like just outright cucked this
Yeah.
season too.
Mm-hmm.
This guy just walks in and is just cucking Hank hard.
He's
It's like
cucking
the
Hank.
Arrowhead episode all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hank decides he needs to order the ice cream from Joe Tiffany,
Yeah,
the
he's
waitress.
gonna pull out the big guns.
Yep. So Hank's worried about making the sale, and that's our first commercial break.
Commercial break.
A lot of action packed in that first one. So we cut back to we're standing in the middle of a field, what looks to be out in the middle of the Texas high hill country, and Hank says this is the propane crossroads. It's the only place in the United States where you can straddle the east and west pipelines. And he says, "This is real Texas, Mr. Holloway."
Obviously, something that this dude would be interested in and riveted by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
of
instead, he
course.
just wants to buy a gun.
Yeah, no, Holloway is not interested. Meanwhile, Peggy and Holloway's wife
I
are
love
in the
this.
kitchen. This is our third guest star of the episode. Yes, this is Stockard Channing, who plays Mrs. Holloway.
Yeah, didn't.
You will know her. Her probably most well-known character is Rizzo from Grease.
Ah,
Yes. So for those listeners, hopefully you're familiar with Grease. At least
I'm
have
not.
heard it. You don't know that Grease is the word?
Grease is the word?
Yeah, dude. Are you serious? Have you never seen
I've
Grease?
never seen Grease.
Oh man, classic.
Yeah. Should I watch it?
It's yeah, it's kind of an icon, I would say, of American culture.
Say no more.
Yeah, dude.
You said, yeah.
It's a musical. It's often also something that is portrayed is like high school production. So not only is the movie itself kind of a classic, and it's Travolta and
Sandy.
yeah, it's Sandy. You see, exactly. You know that.
I know that.
You know
Yeah,
that line.
that. Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John plays Sandy in this, but yeah, the movie itself is an icon, and then it's frequently put on as amateur productions. Yeah, you should definitely watch Grease. Sick, good to know. But yeah, Mrs. Holloway, she's Rizzo in Grease, but Peggy is going to serve her up some Frito pie, which Peggy says is pretty spicy.
Be careful. And
Be
this
careful,
lady
it's spicy.
seems to not enjoy it.
Seems to not enjoy it, which starts to become a running thing in the show, and has already been touched on a time or two, is that Peggy is actually not a good cook.
Also, Frito pie. I don't know if this is going to be offensive to your Oklahoma sensibilities.
Yes.
Gross.
Shut the fuck up, dude. Yes. So yeah, they're Peggy and Mrs. Holloway are eating some Frito pie. Yeah, Mr. Holloway tells Hank he wants him to buy a 6-shooter, and then when we cut back to them in the car, Mr. Holloway, kind of in a flat voice, says, "I told you nicely to buy me a gun." It's so funny. And he's like, "I know you want some souvenirs." And Holloway is like, "Man, look at all this nothing out here." He goes, "What's the suicide rate out here?"
And
Hank is
definitely
like,
buy him that gun.
Hank is like, "Well, right here is where your neighborhood is going up. And the guy's like, "What's wrong here?" And there's a bunch of workers sitting around, and Holloway says, "What's wrong?" And Hank's like, "It's the damn unions." And he yells at the workers to
Yeah.
finish
Get
their
back
little
to work.
devies. So Hank is not pro-union. Strangely, he seems like a
That
union.
doesn't surprise me.
Um, yeah. So Holloway's like, "It's not the unions, it's you." So Holloway's like, "You're not Texas. You're what's wrong here." He just wanted, Holloway just wanted to see some boots and some spurs, and he's kind of like being a little whiny biatch about like not having stuff be Texas enough.
Yeah. And
It's really sad and
conveniently,
annoying.
there's just a billboard for Thatherton's company right
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. So Thatherton is like, "You don't even have any cowboy boots." And so here Hank finally relents and is going to give in. And Hank is going to tell Holloway why he doesn't have cowboy boots, and it's because his uncle Festus, his trailer got blown away in a tornado, and you
A
can't bury him.
twister?
You mean a Texas twister? Yeah, and he's like, "You can't bury a man in his stocking feet." So Hank gave his cowboy boots to his dead uncle.
Well, he also
Uh,
mentions like all of his clothes getting like his boots getting sucked off by a twister.
mhm.
And that just made me think of episode 2 where
Yeah,
all of Hank's clothes got sucked off by a twister.
yeah. But Hank is going to start to lie about his Texas creds. Bobby is in tow and is going to be writing all of this down, which is
Oh,
very
Bobby's
funny
like, I thought you didn't have cowboy boots because your toes are fat.
because your toes are fat. Um, Peggy and Mrs. Holloway are driving around in the car. Peggy is showing her the sights of the town, and she says, "In this house, in the summer of 1953, something very special happened." And Miss Holloway is like, "What's that, Peggy?" And Peggy is like, Ogden Nash, in that house, Ogden Nash wrote the poem The Cow in 1953. Did you look this up at all?
I did not.
Okay, so Peggy recites, she says, "In this house, Ogden Nash wrote the poem The Cow." She starts to recite it, and then Miss Holloway finishes it. So Peggy says, "The cow is of the bovine ilk," and then Miss Holloway finishes, "One end is moo, the other milk."
I'm seeing
That
that this is an actual,
It's an actual poem, and that's the entire portion of the poem.
that's a really good poem.
Yeah, the cow is of the bovine ilk. One end is moo, the other milk. I liked how they used this short, boring ass poem as a way to illustrate like how boring the town of Arlen is. Is that like one of the most like the historic site is a house where somebody wrote a two-line poem.
Is Ogden Nash actually from Texas?
I have no idea. That I did not look up, but I did think it was very cute and funny that the wife seemed to actually know the poem, which I thought was cute. One thing I would have liked to have seen more in this episode, maybe this is from my grievance, but I would have liked to have seen more of a story plot line between Peggy and Miss Holloway.
Yeah, it seemed like that was kind of shoehorned in there and never really
Mm-hmm.
resolved in any way,
I would have liked a
which
bit
is one
more
of
of
the
a,
many qualms I have with this
yeah.
episode.
Qualm alert. Moving on.
Ogden Nash was born in New York and died in Baltimore. So,
Hmm, okay, interesting. Um, well, maybe that's why Miss Holloway knew the poem. We cut to Hank at Reinstein's Cowboy, which is a funny name for a Western wear store.
I didn't catch
Reinstein's.
that. That's good.
Rhinestone Cowboy, of course,
Yeah.
is the Glenn Campbell song. A Rhinestone Cowboy is kind of a moniker that you would give to someone who is a cowboy in appearance or who wears the glamour or is kind of glitzed up
I
in the cowboy
loved
style.
the salesperson at this place, just like the
Yes.
teenager with an earring.
Hmm. Yes, it's very funny. This salesperson tells Hank that he doesn't recommend cowboy boots for people with chubby toes. Why don't you try a Birkenstock sandal? And Hank says, "Shut the hell up."
He's like, you hurt my feeling.
Yes, dude. They come over with some Spurs. Bobby and Mr. Holloway are like, "Here's your Spurs." And Hank's like, I don't want to scuff up the carpet. And the associate is like, what does it matter? Who cares about the carpet? You hurt my feelings. So funny. Um, Hank says that he vowed not to wear hats, or the salesperson is like, he needs a hat. After he's been insulted by Hank, he's going to upsell, which is very funny. But Hank makes up a lie about vowing not to wear a hat after the birth of Lyndon Johnson's first daughter. Um, to which Mr. Holiday goes, Johnson killed our Kennedy, which
Which
is very
what?
um so Kennedy, um
Yeah.
JFK was from Boston, had the famous Boston accent. Everybody from up there loved him. I think some of the conspiracy around his assassination is that Johnson had an involvement to
Ah,
it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Hank brings up Johnson because Johnson, he was Kennedy's vice president.
Yeah.
Um, and so after the assassination, he took over. So yeah,
Interesting.
Holloway scuffs at the mention of Johnson. Yeah, history lesson, folks. Um,
The more you know.
uh, Boomhauer and John Redcorn are gonna walk up, and
Yeah, why
Mr.
are they
Holloway is
there shopping together?
they're who knows? They're men about town. They need jeans for slinging it. They need slinging it jeans with a
Their
lot of room
jeans
on the
are worn
left.
out
A lot of
from all the sex they've been having, from taking them off so many times.
yeah, they need new pants. But Mr. Holloway is going to immediately drop a slur. He's
Yep.
going to say, "Look, Hank, a slur and a hillbilly." Um, Boomhauer is going to do some Boomhauer speech, and is going to kind of laugh at Mr.
Just
Holloway dressed up like Hoss Cartwright.
and just
Ho-
kind of make fun of Hank a little bit too while they're at
mhm.
it.
And is yeah, very very funny. Boomhauer and everybody just making fun of Hank this entire time. Um, we cut back to the house. Peggy is having to yank Hank's boots off. Um, and she gets the boots off, and Peggy is like, now, Hank, what is this Bobby has told me? You bought my freedom from the Comanches with your rodeo winnings. Hank and Peggy talk about how he's been embellishing stuff, and that Hank uh, later tonight is going to help him with his report, and he's going to set straight anything he might have taken out of context, or what have you. Peggy's
Yeah,
in a fly purple pantsuit
from Frumpies,
from Frumpy's.
which is the best. That was probably my favorite joke of the whole
Yeah,
episode.
and the way
That
she
she
said
has a
it too
pantsuit from Frumpies.
was so sweet. She was like, "You don't like it? It's from Frumpy's." Um,
And Hank wants her to dress more like a cow
appropriate,
folk,
appropriately Texan.
and
Yes.
definitely just pulls out a Halloween costume.
No, that's a bridesmaid's outfit from one of Luann's mama's weddings, I
So a
believe. Is
Halloween
Yeah, a Halloween
costume.
costume. But yeah, it's a cowgirl outfit. Very funny. I thought the whole pantsuit thing, when I saw that, I was like, I would have loved to have seen a scene where Mrs. Holloway and Peggy are pantsuit shopping.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have seen like
at
15
Frumpies.
at Frumpy's.
I
Yeah.
want to go to Frumpies.
Yeah. I would have liked, in this storyline where Hank and Mr. Holloway aren't getting along, I would have liked to have seen Peggy and Mrs. Holloway hitting it off.
Yeah, we only got like a little tiny
Yeah.
glimpse of that.
This is going to start the series of events where Peggy gets more and more annoyed with Hank, which is my favorite part of kind of the last
Yeah.
half of this episode. But yeah, Hank asks Peggy to change, and she scowls and reluctantly does it. Bobby is at the table. They're about to leave for the night. Bobby's at the table. Peggy's like, "What are you doing up?" And Bobby's like, "I'm confused. How could he have fought in the Mexican American War and invented the world's first pressure chicken fryer at the same time?"
Yeah, he
And
spent the 80s in a Mexican POW camp.
we're going to go to the steakhouse, which is called Panhandlers, which is kind of funny.
Solid name.
And every Peggy is dressed like the wait staff.
Just the
Very funny.
exact same outfit.
It's very funny. They say, "Well, welcome to Panhandle Steakhouse, home of the world's largest salad bar and second largest sneeze guard." Um, very funny. The waitress is like, "What do you have to eat?" We got the 72-ounce steak challenge. If you eat it, it's free.
I
Hank's
have
like,
done one of these.
"You've done one of these?"
Not
Yeah.
72 ounce. I did a 64-ounce steak, and I
Oh,
did
whoa.
finish it. And my
Whoa.
picture, if the restaurant still exists, is on the wall of an establishment in southwestern Oklahoma.
Oh, whoa.
I had to finish a 64-ounce steak and
Was that
two
Mears?
sides. It was not Mears, no.
Okay.
Mears was like a burger place.
Yeah. I thought Mears did a huge burger.
They
I could be
did,
wrong.
And I have had many of those as well. Though
Yeah,
part
those
of the
burgers
reason
are
I
dank.
stopped eating meat was doing this steak challenge.
Big meat challenges. Brad's a big meat challenger.
Yeah. Big old meat challenger.
Um, so Holloway says like, yeah, I'll have the 72-ounce steak. Um, we go over to the salad bar. We get a nice long cut, animation cut of the salad bar. It ends, the sneeze guard ends, and there's still some unprotected salad bar. We see Holloway immediately sneeze onto the salad,
Yeah.
which
And
is
he
so
gets his
funny.
74-ounce steak, takes one bite of it, and is
Yeah.
immediately full.
He was just like eating eggs at the end of the salad bar, and Hank's
Yeah.
like, no, don't fill up on free stuff. And he's just like eating whole hard boiled eggs.
And
Shout out.
I'm assuming that Hank is on the line for paying for this 74-ounce steak
Yes.
as well.
Yes, he is. This dinner's on Hank. That's why
Yeah.
he's sweating it so hard.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend Chip who eats a bunch of hard boiled eggs raw. He just gulps them
Raw?
down. No, not raw. I mean whole.
They're hard boiled, but they're also raw.
Yeah, he maybe cuts them in half or something, but and he might be listening. Shout out to Chip, you egg eating monster. Yeah, he eats like 3 eggs a day.
Oh man, call him
Yeah,
out.
indeed. But Dale, Dale is gonna walk up and kind of insult Hank again. He's gonna call him Roy Rogers, which is very funny. He's like, you look so goofy, Hank. And Hank, makes the introduction of Mr. Holloway, and Dale says that Mr. Holloway's in from Boston, and Dale is like, I know the place. That's in Massachusetts, isn't it? Pretty good burn. And then he says, say hi to Willie Horton for me. Did you look into any of this at
I
all?
did not look into
American
that.
history lesson again, folks. Abridged version
This is going to
time.
be the longest episode we've ever done.
Yeah, so this has some tie into H.W. Bush's 88 presidential campaign. So you should look up Willie Horton if you're interested in learning about some of the history of race relations post Reagan era, specifically like what's going on in the Republican Party. But Willie Horton was a convicted murderer. He was serving time in Massachusetts. He was let out of prison on a furlough program. And while out on a furlough program, he committed several violent crimes and didn't return and was brought back. So the fact that this man, who was a convicted murderer, was let out of prison and then committed violent crimes, that was really, really drawn in on by the Bush campaign, H.W. Bush, not G.W. Bush. So not the guy who did 9/11, but his dad.
The guy who laid the groundwork.
Yes, there's a really, really disgusting dog whistle ad about this man, Willie Horton. Yeah, so Willie Horton at the time, this in 97, this would have still been kind of relevant in the tail end of the Bush years. But Dale says, say hi to Willie Horton. He's teaching at your kindergarten. So it's actually a pretty kind of a little bit of a vile joke that they put in there. I didn't, after looking a little bit
A
more
lot
into
of
this,
assumptions that people would know who the fuck that is for that joke as well.
at the time, people definitely would have known.
Okay.
In 97, people would have known. People now probably aren't going to catch it unless they're
It didn't land
older
for
or look
my
into it.
ass in 2024 is all I'm saying.
I knew the name, and I figured if it's a joke that they wrote, that it would have been topical at the time. And so, yeah, that's your American history lesson. It's racism. The steak comes out. Holloway takes one bite, says he's done. Hank is like, no, you're not done. You're not done. And Holloway's like, give me a quarter, JR. I want to go test my grip strength. Just absolutely cucking Hank. And Peggy is going to call out Hank, and he's going to say like, oh, you've got something on your back there. And Hank's like, what is it? And she's like, yep, it's footprints.
Oh.
Yeah. Peggy is pretty steamed because she's getting treated like a waitress. Over the loud,
because everyone just thinks that she is one.
Over the loudspeaker, we hear, Mr. Thatherton, your table is ready.
She happens to be there.
We look over and see Mr. Thatherton at the grip strength machine chuckling with Holloway. Hank just is like, it's Thatherton and his table's ready. I gotta go. Hank walks over to Thatherton and Holloway. Holloway's like, Hank, my new friend, J.I., my new friend, Thatherton's taking me to that restaurant where all the servers are ex cowgirls cheerleaders. And Hank is like, if anyone's taking him to a gentleman's club, it's me. And this was one part where I was like, oh, this is going to be funny. Hank at a strip club.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Hank is like, I'm taking him to the gentleman's club. Thatherton says, see you there. Hank goes into the bathroom and Holloway hollers out, oh yeah, get me some protection too. Meaning that he thought Hank was going to get some condoms out of the dispenser in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So Holloway was ready to cheat on his wife that night.
And thought that Hank was as well. Oh, and his wife
Yes.
isn't there because the Frito pie made her sick.
Yes, we gotta
We
cut
should
back to the
mention that.
house. Yeah, we get a quick cut back to the house of Luann and Bobby eating cold Frito pie, and they're like, "Hey, Mrs. Holloway, do you want some?" And she's like, "Ugh." "Yeah, good note there." But yeah, as Hank's in the bathroom, we get a nice mirror moment of Hank trying to get it together. We hear Bobby's voice saying, "My hero is my dad,"
Yep.
and that's where we cut to our
Which
second
is why
commercial
we
break.
need to go to a strip club.
Yes. So fun. That was one thing I thought was very funny that he was like having to reckon in Hank's mind. He was like, have to go to this strip club because my boy, I got to bring
Because
this
my
business
son
home.
is writing an essay
Mhm.
about me.
So funny. So we cut back from the commercial break and we're pulling up in the Cadillac in front of Jug Store Cowboy.
Yeah,
Uh,
great name for a strip
Jug,
club.
yeah, Jug Store Cowboy is funny. It's a play on the term drugstore cowboy, if you're familiar with that, or if you've
I'm
ever
not.
heard drugstore or dime store cowboy
I've
are
heard
used.
dime store.
Yeah, it's often used as a reference to somebody who wears wears cowboy garb but is not a cowboy. Is
Mm.
sometimes referred to as a dime store cowboy. Dime store cowboy could
Unlike
also
a
mean
rhinestone cowboy.
they're
So many
kind of the
different
same
types
thing.
of cowboys, hey?
They're kind of the same thing, and the terms can mean different things. There's also a dime store cowboy that's semi-positive. It's like in reference to like the cowboys that you, well, I guess still not semi-positive, but it's a reference to like cowboys you would see on the cover of novellas in
Oh,
dime stores.
sexy boys.
So a dime store cowboy could also be like a character in
Got
a
it.
in a novella. So yeah, Jug Store Cowboys is the name of the strip club, and Hank, this is the funniest scene right here is Hank is getting out of the car. Hank says, I thought you'd be mad because I told Bobby that I would help him with his Sunday school report, and instead I'm going to Jug Store Cowboys as part of my work required
Work
sales
required
excursion."
sales excursion. He's going for the hard sale.
He says, I thought you'd be mad because I'm going to the strip club instead of helping my son. And Peggy just says, get out. And then Hank is like, Peggy, can I borrow $50? And can I have it in ones for,
For the G string.
the G strings? Yes. And Peggy just throws the money and speeds off.
Love it.
That was my favorite portion is just how pissed
Yeah.
Peggy gets at Hank for the shit he has to do for work or the
She
shit
just
he's
wanted
putting up with.
she just wanted to wear her pantsuit from Frumpy's and
Mm-hmm.
for Hank to help Bobby with his essay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So they're in the strip club and Hank's trying to close the deal. He finally asks Holloway for his business. He's like, will you partner with us? Holloway's not listening.
He wants a
And
mint julep.
he wants a mint julep. He says, get me a mint julep. Meanwhile, there is a bottle of tequila sitting in front of him.
Yeah.
So he
Hank's
says,
like,
get me a,
people don't really drink those here.
yeah, Hank's getting fed up here. He's like, you don't even have your stereotypes right. So he goes over to the bar to get a mint julep and he's going to have a very fun conversation with a
I
dancer
loved
over here.
this.
She's like, mint. He orders a mint julep and she's like, mint julep. And he's like, it's not for me. I got a Yankee client. Uh, she's like, did he make you wear that hat? And he's like, yep. Yeah. So Hank's got a Yankee client. The mint julep is not for him. Um, this this lady is going to say like, oh yeah, my boss makes me put on this outfit and try to take money from these drunk idiots every night. And she's like, we're a lot alike, you and I. And Hank is like, why do we do it? Chiffon. Uh
Great name.
Chiffon. And she says, for the money, cowboy. She says she never would have made six figures working at the potato hut. And Hank's like,
Yeah.
6 figures? And
Hank's
Siobhan's,
whoring himself out and he doesn't make as much as a stripper does.
yes. Hank's like, 6 figures. And she's like, uh-huh. Soon enough, I'm going to have enough money to stay at home with my granddaughter and her baby. So this is a great grandmother working
Yep.
here at Jug Store Cowboys, which is kind of funny. Um, she's like, she's like, how about a lap dance? She asks Hank, how about a lap dance? Because he looks sad and upset. And then we cut to it. So we don't actually know if Hank got a lap dance from Chiffon or
Mm.
not. That remains unanswered.
I want to say no.
Yeah. Here we cut back to the house with Bobby being confused. And yeah, this is where Bobby admits that Hank is no longer his hero. His hero is now Colonel Sanders. It's at
Yeah.
this scene. My bad.
Get your shit together, man.
But yeah, Bobby has been writing shit down about Hank all episode that has been wrong. And I just thought it was funny that now he's got another set of facts wrong, but it's about Colonel Sanders.
Fighting in like a chicken war.
The Spanish-American War. According to Bobby, the timeline is he fought in the Spanish-American War and invented the pressure cooking chicken fryer at the same time. So there's contradictions in the Colonel Sanders lore, just like there's contradictions in the fake lore that Hank has been
Wait,
making
is
up.
Colonel Sanders a real guy?
I think so. Who knows? Educate us
Tune
in
in
the
next
comments.
week.
Yeah. We cut back over to the club. Hank brings this mint julep over to Holloway, who is like, this is disgusting. Where's the
Not a
vodka?
fan.
Where's the tomato juice?
Ew.
So Holloway maybe meant to order a Bloody Mary and was just like way drunk. But yeah, he doesn't like the mint julep because it doesn't have vodka or tomato juice. This is going to be the last straw for Hank. Well, Holloway's like, maybe I should have Thatherton buy my drinks. And Hank's like, if that's how you want to do your business, that's fine.
Yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, he's like, I don't do that this way. I'm Hank Hill and I sell propane and propane accessories. And Holloway is like, those are fighting words, JR. And Holloway tries to throw a punch, which Hank immediately catches, just real badass. He's like,
Yeah.
what? And he's like, this isn't a John Wayne movie, although he just caught a punch like an action movie,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty funny. And then Thatherton is going to be like, well, if you want to fight, I'll fight you, Pilgrim. And so Thatherton is just going to punch Holloway in the face and start a fight in Jug Store Cowboys. We cut to and that's how that scene resolves.
Yeah.
We don't see any more of Thatherton or Holloway after this. We cut to
just
Bobby.
kind of ends.
It ends in the church, inside a church. Bobby is at the pulpit of what looks to be like a single room church house, and he's giving his report on a real Texan.
He's giving his Sunday school report to the whole church.
The whole church, who includes a lot of different characters from the town. Buckley is there. John Redcorn is in church. Boomhauer is in church. Everybody is there. But yeah, Bobby says, my dad, a real Texan. At the end of his report, everyone claps. And then Bobby says, and I would also like to give a special thanks to Mr. Hank Hill for raising me as his own son, even though I was fathered by another man while Mr. Hank Hill was in a Mexican POW camp. And everyone just kind of
embarrassed.
Awkwardly claps. But it's Hank's fault because he didn't correct the mistakes that Bobby wrote down like he said he was going to. Instead, he went to Jug Store Cowboys with Mr. Holloway.
But it seems like his essay went over pretty well.
Yeah, it did, until he brought up the fact that he was fathered by someone else, which was very, very a very funny joke to leave the episode on. I thought it was a great ending punchline. But yeah, that's basically it.
That is basically it.
That is it.
Let's just jump right into the alley because I have a lot of shit to say about this episode.
Straight to the alley.
All right, this is the segment of the show where we give this episode a ranking.
I'm gonna buy you a drink.
Out of a 6-pack of Alamo beers, we decide how many we're going to pound down for this episode. 6 being the best. I mentioned at the top that I'm a little hungover right
Mhm.
now. So beer doesn't really wet my whistle at the moment. And I am giving this episode half a beer.
Half a beer.
Yes.
Whoa.
This episode might be my least favorite one that we've talked about yet.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say this one is a polite one beer for me.
It's a oneer.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Lowest score we've given, I think.
it's I don't know. None of the jokes were extremely hard hitters.
There's a couple good
There's a
gags.
couple, but there's none that were like, whoa, that was really good.
Yeah, my biggest qualms are with just the like structure of the script. Like the whole thing with Holloway doesn't really get resolved other than Hank just kind of like sticking up for himself.
Yeah,
The whole thing with Fatherton just feels like it never really came to a resolution. I don't know if that character even is reintroduced ever
I
in the
don't think
show.
I don't think he does. No.
The Bobby writing a Sunday school essay just seemed like a weird thing that was shoehorned in. And then there's the whole thing with the wife, with Holloway's wife. Like the gag is just that like she got sick and she's just not there, but like why give us those scenes of her and Peggy?
Yeah,
Like none
there's
of it really made sense to me. It seems like it was just kind of piecemealed together, you know?
yeah, and I guess it was meant to be a thing of like, Hank doesn't necessarily have like the appearance of a real
Yeah.
Texan, but because he, stands up for himself and conducts his business, honestly and openly, and because he's a family man, like those are the things that really makes him a real Texan.
But then he
And
doesn't really do any of that until the very end where he's just kind of like, I'm over it,
yeah,
I'm done. Like Thatherton wins.
yeah,
Like it doesn't resolve. And he also just sacrifices all of his like the things that he stands on. Like he buys the cowboy boots, he gets the
hmm
hat, he goes to the strip club and then just kind of gives up.
yeah. He does the James Bond shit that he said he didn't need
Yeah.
earlier.
And then
I
Bobby writes the essay with a bunch of incorrect in it,
you know
which was
I think
funny.
I actually do think I'm gonna have a second beer. Let me
Oh.
get one more beer, and I think what moves it up for me is um Strickland making them do meetings in the bathroom. I just thought that was
Yeah.
really
Funny.
funny.
There's some funny gags. I enjoyed a lot of the like jokes, but a lot of
Yeah.
them felt kind of like throwaways. I like that we got to see Buck Strickland for the first time.
I was gonna say this is really the first major Strickland episode, and I think it's really Strickland for me that's moving it up a point, is because this is I think we've seen him and maybe heard his voice once or twice. Buck Strickland is voiced by Stephen Root, the same voice actor for
Yep,
Bill.
it's Bill.
Um, so this is like one of the first ones that sets the character for Strickland as like a real piece of shit guy. Because
Yeah.
Strickland sucks, but
But
like
we only got him in the one scene,
yeah,
which
but
is a
the
bummer as
scenes
well.
we got him in that scene in the flashback. Uh,
Yeah.
and he's doing the same thing in both times, which is making his underlings meet with him while he shits, which
Yeah.
I just thought that
It,
was my
it
favorite
it
part.
was a
So I'll
good
take two.
introduction to Buck.
Yeah,
I'm pouring the rest of mine out and I'm staying at a
it's
half.
staying at a half a beer. Yeah.
But even though we didn't give it that good of a score
Mm-hmm.
in the alley, 2.5, we still need to crown a Hill King for the
Yes.
episode. And I'm gonna let you go first because I don't know who I'm choosing.
Man, this was tough for me. I thought about it
I
last
don't want
night,
to pick
and
anyone.
Rachel kind of watched this one alongside me a little bit while I was taking notes. And so I was, asking her like how she felt about the episode. And she also thought it was pretty mid, which it kind of was. I don't really think I want to take Holloway was way too annoying for
No,
me.
yeah, that character was not
And
good.
I don't think we got enough teeth or play from Thatherton for me to like him as a villain character like I did in episode 3 Arrowhead, where the archaeologist, I took him
Yeah.
as a king because he was in it all along. Fun fact, same directors for Arrowhead and this episode is Clay Hall. So yeah, I kind of thought that Burt Reynolds was kind of underused. I think for me,
Yeah.
my Hill King,
And the wife too.
yeah,
She was underused as well.
I think I am going to give my Hill King to Peggy.
That's who I was gonna choose.
Whoa!
I'm going Peggy too.
Yeah, I think it's Peggy. She's really kind of along as a bit of a side character, but I liked what she had to do. A lot of her funny stuff was Hank owning himself. I think it's really the drop off scene there that really does it for me. Whenever Hank's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to the strip club, and just the look that we have on Peggy's face as she's like, get out.
And for me, it's the frumpies
Mm-hmm.
that put it over the edge for
She
me.
had that sweet, sweet pantsuit. But yeah, I really
Yeah.
would have liked. I really would have liked maybe one or two more scenes with Miss Holloway and Peggy. I thought could have been fun, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I would have liked a lot more from this episode. I
mhm.
think if they would have gotten rid of the Sunday school thing and found like a different motivator for the episode, I don't think any of that was really necessary, but I did like that Peggy was just kind of like upset with Hank, but that also doesn't really resolve. But she just kind of
Yeah,
had the best gag, which
yeah.
is why I'm going Peggy as well. Also, no Luann in this episode.
She's at the dinner table with Bobby.
Yeah, but she doesn't talk. We don't get
She
a
does.
peep.
She
Does
does. She
she?
said she says, "Hi, Mrs. Holloway. Do you want some cold Frito pie?" She
Well,
speaks. I noted that too because I was looking for her, bro. Trust me.
yeah. Not enough.
Not
Not
enough,
enough
Luann.
Luann for me, and
Hmm.
that really hurts the episode
That factors
in
in
my
heavy.
eyes. And Bobby didn't really feel like Bobby in this episode.
No, he could have had a lot more jokes. He's really just in the background, and then he delivers his joke at the end. But
Yeah.
yeah, kind
But
of first
Peggy.
bit of this season. This season has
Yeah,
been
this season has
so
been so
strong.
strong. And then the animation was weird. Like it was kind
Hmm.
of back to like the weird Foley and like
Yeah, we'll see
yeah,
though.
I'm hoping it turns around next
Yeah.
week.
Well,
But that
next week is a good one.
oh yeah,
I
it
enjoy
is.
it.
You
Yes,
promise?
I do. Next week is called Bobby Slam. It's pretty funny,
Yes,
and
you've told me about this episode.
we might have guests.
Ooh.
We're currently slated to. Maybe we'll see you in the future if we do or do not.
Look out, nephews. Could be
Mhm.
another guest next week.
Yeah, Bobby Slam next week.
Could be
Episode
our
10.
third guest episode of the season.
Ooh.
We're heavy on the guests this
Mhm.
time around. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to potentially have some guests. I'm excited that this episode is behind us
So you can take a nap.
so I can take a nap and go continue being a little hungover. We'll
Mhm.
see y'all next week. Of course, check us out on YouTube if you are listening
Hello.
on a podcast app. You can see our faces. You can see This Week in Arlen. You can see the Hill Kings. You can see screenshots from the episode. You can see Chris's little
You
noggin.
you can see Burt Reynolds' mustache that I'm sure we'll
I'll
put up in the
definitely be
show.
popping that up. I'll
Mhm.
pop up some chest hair if you want to see that on
Mhm.
Burt Rennies as well. Uh, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can give us a subscribe, you can give us a like, you can comment your Hill King choice, your favorite moment of the episode. You can correct anything that we may have been incorrect on.
You can roast me for my Boston accent.
You can roast Chris for his Boston accent. And you can also do that on Instagram at Hill Kings Pod. Go check us out over there. If
Send
you
us
are an
memes.
audio listener, you can still see the visuals of This Week in Arlen on the Instagram. And we would love it if you would send us memes as well. That'll do it. Any parting words for our nephews, Crisp?
No. Nothing.
No
Nothing
parting
today.
words? Well, as we say. at the end of every episode.
That's honking, Brad. Happy birthday, Moret.
No.
Oh, it's not Moret's birthday?
Not when this comes out.
Oh, well, happy birthday to her regardless.
No.
In perpetuity. Okay,
No.
bad birthday then.
Yeah.
Sorry, Moret. Your husband made me do that.
Just kidding. Love you.
Quack, quack, quack.
Hill Kings Podcast.
Woof.